Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I would recommend Angel Care to anybody. They have really helped me regain my strength.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
I couldn't have survived this without Angels Care.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks as always to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at Palmer Recital Hall in Malloy Hall on the campus of Fort Hays State University with instructor in the Department of Theater and Music at Fort Hays State, Tomme Williams. And Tomme, very, very big success that you're still enjoying, I hope, from Footloose, the homecoming musical that was presented.
Oh, yes. Actually, I was taken aback a bit that it took off as big as it did. It was a little overwhelming, but I am thrilled. I am thrilled that the community and the campus family supported us and enjoyed it as much as they did.
I think the last I heard it was sold out in every performance, I believe.
Well, we sold out two performances. Actually, I had to put people upstairs because we literally ran out of room. But the first two performances were quite full, quite full.
I thought it was just a perfect homecoming piece. It involved a lot of students. It was fun. It was upbeat. It was just homecoming, it seemed to me like.
I actually thought, and Dr. Cruel has mentioned a couple times that it was the perfect choice, and the theater gods aligned themselves. Yes, they did. It turned out to be just probably the best thing we could have done. After working with it for a while in rehearsal very early on, I realized that it was actually a pretty well-crafted piece. All the way around, from the music to the libretto. It just worked and certainly fit what we needed to do here with our students, with the students we had, in order to give them a very successful opportunity and have a good time. That's the big thing, to have a good time.
Well, and the community support from the Fort Hays family, the community at large, really is a great influx and input to these kids that are on stage.
Oh, yes. It is so important. It is so important to have an audience out there for them, to appreciate what they're trying to accomplish. It also really helps them to learn to do what they're trying to learn to do, and that is to engage an audience. Yes, and if there's not an audience out there to engage, they're working for thin air. So it was, and they had so much fun with full houses and people enjoying it as much as they did. It just upped the game tremendously.
Well, now, Tomme, let me ask you about selection of Footloose, the previous movie. Many people were familiar with it. Is it tougher to have something that people know or are used to or have seen, as opposed to something that's brand new and totally different and they may not have seen at all? Which is tougher, do you think, to pull off?
Well, each show is its own challenge, to be absolutely honest. Each time you go into a production, you are faced with a whole new set of challenges and hurdles to get over. But when you're doing something, especially music, that is well known, you certainly have to not necessarily reproduce it so it sounds like the original, but you have to be on top of having them present this music in such a way that the audience can enjoy it in a new way and relate to it very much as they had in the past. You know, music is something that is sort of like aromas and smells. relate as humans parts of our lives to music, you know. It brings up very personal sort of feelings. And when you're doing pop tunes like that, it's very important to respect them.
And each person brings a different perspective to that music, to that performance, don't they?
Well, certainly, and Dr. Krull, the music director, was very wise in that he put his own spin on it. I thought it was great that we made the music Fort Hayes' music, but still respected what the original composers and what it was in the beginning. But, you know, we didn't try to, you know, do Kenny Loggins a la Kenny Loggins. Yes.
You've been at this a while, Tommy. Whenever you see students come in to audition, to look at a piece that you're doing, and whether it's one of the future ones or a past one, you look at the young people that are coming in. Do you have a sense that this particular person is right for this character? Do you have to see them in action first? Do you know, wow, this person is just right for this role?
Actually, yes. That's one of my fortes is casting, I must say, and I don't pat myself on the back very often. But when I choose shows, I very much, and this year I had spent much longer than I should have, but I needed to. I really investigated, particularly the two plays, finding vehicles that the people I have here could be very successful in, and yet still present an engaging production and something that my season ticket holders would appreciate and really enjoy coming to see. With Footloose, with the musical, I knew I had this large cast of, some of them I had worked with for 4 years, some of them for 3 years, and I really was looking for something with a large enough cast that I could feature all these people, particularly give the 4-year people their, you know, a shining role for their last year. And also give opportunities to some of my actors who don't particularly sing. And the more I looked at Footloose, well, the cast size just originally when I looked it up on Wikipedia was, oh, all right. And then I looked at the music and went, oh, okay. And then the more I looked at it, I realized it played on Broadway for 18 months, which even though the critics weren't that crazy about it, 18 months on Broadway is quite a feat. There must be something to this. And all in all, you know, when we started rehearsing, I went, well, this really works very well. It's very, very much like Mamma Mia, which also is a well-crafted musical. I don't think musicals always have to be something that, a musical is meant to be entertaining and to engage an audience, not necessarily always to have to make a big statement, right? And Footloose, when they put that together, and it had been reworked and reworked for revivals and for tours, and I think they finally hit on the right formula.
Well, now we're going to change directions considerably with the 5th of July coming November 12th. Smaller cast, totally different.
Yes, it has a cast of 8, and actually 4 of my cast, again, are seniors. And then I have 2 young ladies who are sophomores from TMP, a new freshman from TMP, but these students have all done many, many shows, not only for the Hayes Community Theater, but all of TMP shows. So this is a well-seasoned cast. It was written by Lanford Wilson, who's one of the most distinguished American authors of the late 20th century. He has been well produced around the country since he sort of popped up off Broadway, a la Edward Albee. I think he's a great follow-up for Edward Albee. it is very well written. It's very funny. It actually, in rehearsal, is much funnier when it is being performed on stage than even when I read it. Yet it still has its very poignant moments, and it's not really didactic. It deals with a group of people who lived together in Berkeley in the early 70s and were protesting the war, and the main character is a Vietnam vet who has come home a paraplegic from the war. But it really does not preach against the war. The war is only, his condition is only somewhat of a background to everything that is going. It is also one of the first plays that Mr. Wilson created gay characters that has nothing to do with them being gay. That also is just a secondary fact. It's more about the family and respecting one's roots, I would say.
Sounds like it covers a lot of human emotions.
It does. Lanford Wilson is really noted for his earthy and realistic. He's very good at writing dialogue and creating characters who speak to Middle America. He was born actually in a small town in Missouri where the play is set, Lebanon. And his plays are very much like William Inge, who is much earlier than Lanford Wilson. Midwestern. Yeah, so it's nice to present a play that very much speaks to the area that we all live in.
Now, we're looking ahead to next spring with something different entirely. A Servant of Two Masters coming in March, Tommy.
Yes, that play is actually very much a commedia dell'arte piece. Commedia dell'arte for several hundred years. After the Middle Ages, late Middle Ages, an Italian innovation was street theater, very much improvisational, based on stock characters. You have the young girl and her father and the young man who's trying to marry her, which he doesn't think is such a good idea because he doesn't know he's have enough money for her. And you have the lecherous old doctor who's trying to weasel his way in, and the Harlequin, which is kind of a knave and sly trickster, coming at everybody's pocket. Mr. Goldini, it's a transition piece where one of the leading actors towards the end of the Commedia dell'arte tradition commissioned this author to actually set down on paper to write a script. So it's one of the first scripted pieces, and it's probably the biggest, most performed surviving piece from the early 1700s of Commedia dell'arte, which is what I call a door slammer in some ways. It's very much a farce, somewhat like Figaro that we did last year, but much more presentational to the audience. Where Figaro, we did have a lot of asides and sort of inside jokes with the audience. This one is very much presented like a group of actors coming onto the stage and saying to the audience, well, we're all here tonight, we're going to watch a show, and just being very much upfront like we were doing an improvisational show on the street.
Tommy Williams, instructor in the Department of Music and Theater at Fort Hays State. It's called A Servant of Two Masters, and it's coming in March. And by the way, tickets are available. $15 for the general public, $10 for seniors and students, and you can get $50 season tickets, which get you into music and theater performances, and you can get those right now. There are all event passes for $125 that get you into all of the presentations of music and theater at Fort Hays State. Always a delight, Tommy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tommy Williams, our community connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hays and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
There's not any words to describe their kindness.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
They saved my life.